and we'll get started. So I'm going to stop my video. So again, welcome. My name is Kathy Markov, and I'm here to talk to you about how to job search during this pandemic. So I first want to start by saying how sorry I am that you are out of work at this time. And I want to just impress upon you that this is in no way your fault. This is an unprecedented situation that has likely little to do with you and everything to do with the situation that we're faced with. So let's talk about what we're going to be learning here today. So how to job search during a pandemic. My hope is that you develop skill at staying positive during this time of unemployment. You're able to identify some transferable skills that the labor market needs now, and that you know the benefit of networking to tap into the hidden job market. This is what we'll be doing. We're doing the introduction now, ensuring that you stay safe. That's number one. We really want to ensure that you keep your benefits during this time. This is paramount so that you can remain stable from a financial position. And master your thoughts and actions, develop resiliency and stress reduction basics, talk about transferable skills, the importance in the use of labor market information. We'll look at the hidden job market, and then we'll pull it all together. And I will have a summary activity for you, or excuse me, a challenge activity for you at the end, which will give you some action steps to take after this presentation. Following this, we will be posting the PowerPoint slides and a handout that has some links to some of the information that I'll be referring to, so that after this, you'll have an opportunity to access this information again. So, here we are. Who would have ever thought that when we were starting 2020, that this is what was going to happen? I'd like to say there's an easy way out, but there's not. And if you're on the line, you're interested in looking for work. And so we want to talk about this a little bit. A friend of mine sent this to me, and I thought that this was pretty apropos, because in many ways, this is what we're experiencing. The biggest challenge is that it's unclear and unknown what the future holds. This has affected employers, job seekers, everyone in a myriad of ways. And so this is what we're going to be talking about. I want to start with this quote. I love this quote. It says, "The pessimist complains about the wind. The optimist expects it to change. The realist adjusts the sails." So we do want to be optimistic, but we really have to be realistic at this time. It is important that we remember we need to be flexible and have clarity on what is possible for us to do now, and how the world may be changing as this catastrophe unfolds. I think life will never really be the same, but it doesn't mean that it's going to be worse. But without a doubt, things will be different. This is my message to everyone. We want to ensure that you are safe first. So of course, these are the things that we need to do. But as you approach a job search during this time of pandemic, it's important that you're realistic about what you're really willing and can do. Your health and safety always comes first in a public health crisis like this pandemic. You want to consider, what are your family responsibilities that might keep you from certain types of work? What are the technological opportunities that you have to work from home? Or what are the skills that you have to do that you could do safely? So safety comes first. But having said that, it does not mean that you cannot work during this time. There are opportunities to work remotely, either by internet, phone, in-home cottage industries, things like that that we'll look at here. One very important aspect, in addition to safety, is that you're able to keep your benefits coming. There's no shame in accepting unemployment or any kind of social services at this time. This is what they're there for, and they're just at the moment. This is a moment that these services were designed to keep you healthy and safe and financially stable, but also the economy. So this is important. When people stop paying their bills or unable to go to the grocery store, it makes the economic situation worse. So there's no shame in accepting these benefits at this time, but it is very important that you follow the rules, that you're on time, that you fill out all the paperwork and the things that you need to do on time, and that you're truthful. If you're working even a few hours in a week, definitely report it, because you don't want to have to go and pay back benefits at the end of this. But definitely do the work to keep your benefits coming. Your attitude is everything. I mentioned before that there are opportunities everywhere and there is cause for optimism, but it truly is important how you are managing your own attitude in order to be able to attract the attention of a future employer. When you are looking for work, as hiring managers, they are looking for attitude elements. So this is really important that you're working on your attitude. And when I think about attitude, I always think of this quote. This is a book by Viktor Frankl called Man's Search for Meaning. And I taught a class at Cuesta Community College in San Luis Obispo, and I had a student who kept encouraging me to read the book, and I didn't want to read it because it was about concentration camps and it seemed so sad to me. But really it was an uplifting book about Viktor Frankl's experiences in the concentration camps. And for me, it's truly inspirational. He said, "We who lived in concentration camps can remember the men who walked through the huts, comforting others, giving away their last piece of bread. They may have been few in number, but they offer sufficient proof that everything can be taken away from a man but one thing, the last of the human freedoms, to choose one's attitude in any given set of circumstances, to choose one's own way." And I love that. And I think it's apropos now, because we may feel out of control in many aspects of our life during this pandemic, but you can control your attitude. So taking care of yourself while you're out of work is really paramount. Some of you, this may not be your first time. You may have gone through this before. I lost a business during the recession. My business has been greatly impacted during this period of time. I've lost work as well. So this does not necessarily mean if you've been through it before that's any easier, but you can do it with more ease. And like the butterfly, remember that you can emerge and fly again. So it's important at this time that we begin to think, what are some of the ways you know how to take care of yourself? This is how you become a master of your thoughts and your actions. This quote is great. It says, "The enthusiastic heart finds opportunities everywhere." And there are opportunities to work. And so this is what we're going to be talking about now. I love this quote by Nelson Mandela. "It always seems impossible until it's done." And I think for me, when I think back on my life, that is truly the case. But the thing that's remarkable about this, beyond the quote, is that every time I think of Nelson Mandela, I see that big, beautiful smile of his. And I think, he spent 27 years alone in prison, and he came out ready to change the world. We can stay home, we can be unemployed for a few months, and we can emerge ready to take on the world. But that doesn't mean it's easy. According to a Gallup poll about the age of COVID-19, the survey stated that the future new normal is still developing and that people are overwhelmed with information and misinformation. So yes, we may be feeling a bit stressed at this time. And this is a key component, particularly if you're looking for work. Stress is when our mental and physical condition results in a perceived threat and the pressure to remove it. So we feel out of control. And this feeling of stress impacts our body, it impacts our emotions, it impacts our mind, the way we think about things, and it impacts our behavior. And so this is important, that we're really self-aware at this time and doing the things to take care of ourselves first and neutralize these negative emotions in order to reorganize ourselves to really present ourselves well to look for work. You know, you may not know this, but there are actually two kinds of stress. And I like to bring this up because it's important to consider this. The stress that we talk about is usually this kind of stress, distress. But there's another kind of stress, and it's called eustress. Eustress, eu is the Greek word for good. So you may not have ever thought about this, but there's a bad stress and a good stress. The good stress is the energy to get up and to do things. Some type of good stress got you on this call today, and that is really powerful. I see that we have several people on the line today, and there was something that motivated you to do this. You know, I like to tell this little story. This is the story that I heard from a motivational speaker, Tony Robbins. And he was a coach to, at the time, a very famous singer. Her name was Carly Simon. And you may know her. She had this song called You're So Vain. But you don't hear much about her because she has debilitating stress that keep her from performing. Well, Tony Robbins was trying to help her overcome her stress response. And he also was best friends with Bruce Springsteen. Now, Bruce Springsteen is infamous in the world. They say he has performed live in front of more human beings than anyone ever on the planet. And Bruce Springsteen loves nothing more than getting up in front of a huge football stadium of 30, 40,000 people and singing his song, Born in the USA, or whatever it is. So he's really has no stress about what Carly Simon could not seem to do. Carly Simon was so debilitated by stress that she built a performance like an open air theater in her backyard. And she could perform. She didn't even have to leave the house, but she still couldn't perform. So what Tony Robbins said to her, listen, Carly, when you get into that moment where you're super stressed out, I want you to call me. And so one day she was behind the curtains, getting ready to walk out onto the stage, and she couldn't do it. She was debilitated by stress. So she called Tony Robbins. And Tony Robbins said, oh, Carly, I'm so glad you called. I'm going to put you on the line with my friend, Bruce Springsteen. So the three of them had this phone call. And so Tony said, so Carly, tell me, how do you feel right now? And she said, well, my heart is pounding and my breath is very labored. And my hands are shaking and my hands are sweating. And I have this funny feeling in my stomach. And my head is sort of feeling like it's going around in circles. And I hear the roar of the crowd and I think, oh, I can't get out there. So Tony turned to Bruce and said, so Bruce, how do you feel when you're under stress? And Bruce Springsteen, the boss, said, well, you know, I kind of start breathing heavily and my heart starts a pounding and my hands start sweating and shaking a little bit. And I kind of feel it in my stomach and my head, well, it starts to like get a little bit, well, I hear the crowd roaring and I think I can't wait to get out there. So what we learn from this is that these feelings of distress and eustress, they actually can have the same physical symptoms. So the difference is how we interpret it in our mind. And at this time, when we're looking for work in the middle of a pandemic, we need to really manage our stress and start to focus on the possibilities and not the things that are not impossible. So a lot of times people say that they want to live their life with no stress, but actually that's not true. right? If you think about distress and eustress and no stress, where do you think you do your best work? Well, you do it when you're feeling some pressure, but it's the pressure to get moving, to have a purpose. And here we go back to my friend Viktor Frankl. He said, what man actually needs is not a tensionless state, but rather the striving and struggling for a worthwhile goal, a freely chosen task. Now, I do want to recognize that at this time, you know, you did not freely choose to be living through a pandemic and be looking for work at this time. But what I think is important is that we're not looking for stress-free. We're looking for that opportunity that gets us excited. Let me step back. We're looking for the opportunities, plural, because we need to think broadly in terms of what we can do. So what are the opportunities that feel worthwhile to us, that get us excited, that would motivate us to really go through this job search, not only in a positive way, but also one that we're going to find work that is sustainable. So this difference between the eustress and the distress, it's really a fine line. So the thing that's important is that you really watch out for these symptoms of stress exhaustion. It hits us physically, emotionally, spiritually, mentally, relationally. You are going to really struggle in a job search if you're not managing your stress. So it's important to ask yourself a couple of questions. When do you notice these symptoms? What is your pattern? We usually have patterns of things that trigger us from a stress point of view. How do you manage your stress? How have you managed them in the past? What things do you need to remember to be able to manage them now? The first step to managing these is really self-awareness. And be kind to yourself. Make sure you're getting enough sleep. Make sure you're eating healthy food, right? There's all these jokes about the quarantine 15 or all sorts of things. I know I've eaten a lot more chocolate and had a lot more wine than I usually do. But make sure that you're getting enough fruits and vegetables. You're moving your body, you're exercising. We do have stay-at-home orders, but we live in beautiful Santa Barbara County. Can you get out? Can you take a hike? Can you find a place where you can social distance and still get some exercise? You can't make a good impression on your future employer if you're not taking good care of yourself. So we go back to some basics in stress management. Identify what's behind your stress and address it right away. So that is that self-awareness piece. Talk to your loved ones and ask them for help. Be help to one another. Simplify your life by shortening your to-do list and learning to say no. Now you might be saying, why would I do that now? I've got so much to do. Part of this is getting reorganized and really being able to focus on the things that are the most important to move you forward to getting that next great job. I'm going to talk about that in a minute. Quiet your mind through yoga, mindfulness, whatever it is. For me, I like to be out in nature. I like to look at beautiful trees and the gorgeous landscaping around here. So whatever it is that helps you to relax and find time to do things that you enjoy. Find hobbies or other kinds of physical activities. I've been unemployed more than once. And every time I do, I find myself gravitating back towards some hobbies that I really had the time to do when I was younger. I like to draw, I like to crochet, I like to sew. And when I'm working full-time, I don't have any time to do that. So during this period, for me too, has been a slowdown. I pulled out my sewing machine, I started crocheting, learning new stitches. That's just me. But what I'm saying is you need to give yourself permission and the grace to focus on things that you enjoy doing. This helps to manage our stress and puts us in the mental framework that we're going to be attractive to future employees. Watch yourself talk and do things you enjoy. So here's what I want to suggest to you. Going back to that tip number 3, where we were talking about learning to say no and really be focused on how you use your time. I'm going to suggest to you that you should have a daily thing 1 and thing 2 that you do directly related to your job search. You could put down a long to-do list of things and it can be overwhelming. I encourage you to take some time to really focus on what are the tasks that you need to do in order to get focused here. So your goal should be identify 2 specific things per day that move you towards finding employment. You will need to do self-reflection. What are you good at? What do you want to do? What can you do? What can you do now that maintains your health and safety and that of your family? My husband is looking for work. He's a personal trainer. He's not working right now. He was laid off. But we are responsible for his 87-year-old parents who are not well. So this is not the time for my husband to be going out and being around a lot of people. So the question is, what can he do? How can he use technology to help him still be able to work, but not be exposing himself to things? So you need to do some self-reflection. You need to do some research, and I'm going to get you started on that. Who's hiring? Where are the jobs? And there are jobs right now. Not every job has closed. And there's some exciting new opportunities. You may need to learn some new skills, right? You may need to learn how to job search on the internet. I don't know how long it's been since you were looking for work last. Things have changed a lot just in the last couple of years. How do you set up an online presence to attract the attention of employers? Maybe you need to use this time to update your skills. That could be formal education. It could be occupational training. And there are some stipends through the Workforce Development Board that you may apply to help you get certified in a certain industry. And there's lots of other private certification bodies that may be helpful for you. During this period of time, I've become certified with the Society for Human Resource Management as a certified senior human resource professional. This was something I always wanted to do, but I never really had the time. It is an investment, but this is a time to be investing in yourself. But whatever you do, let me tell you something not to do. So I told you I used to work in workforce services in San Luis Obispo, Monterey, and Santa Cruz counties during the recession. And we saw this a lot. This is how job searching has changed. And that is, do not send out 500 resumes, either on paper or over the internet. This is what I call the shotgun approach to job searching. And I can tell you that hiring managers can see right through it. You know, I'd be hiring for a career counselor and I would get a resume and cover letter who clearly described that they wanted to work for a growing company in sales. They're just shooting their email out. It has no relation to what I'm looking for. I don't even pay any attention to it. So this is important to understand because hiring managers at this moment are going to be bombarded with resumes and applications. So you want to make sure that what you're sending is specific. So every day you want to have 2 things that move you forward. And I will say every week, I would rather have you apply for 2 jobs that you really want, that you've researched, that you've customized your application materials for. So that when that hiring manager receives your resume and cover letter, it's speaking directly to them. This is how you get your foot in the door to the initial interview process. And it's really key, particularly when there are a lot of people looking for work. So again, fewer applications, shoot for 2 jobs per week. This is what EDD asks us to do, but they're specific for a place you really want, a job you're really qualified for, and you take the time to customize your resume, customize everything so that when that hiring manager looks at it, it meets the requirements of the job announcement. There will be more classes on how to do that, but this is my task for you. So two applications a week, but if you do 2 really significant, impactful things a day, Then in a week, you'll have done 10 significant things to move you forward. Let's talk a little bit about resilience. So this is from a guy, Michael Gravias. He's a PhD. He studies high performance professionals, mostly athletes. He's a psychologist. He works with the Seattle Seahawks, NBA players and Olympians. And this is what he says. These are the 3 C's of resilience. And during this period, we really need to be focusing on being resilient. You need to have a challenge mindset. This means that we look forward to the challenge, whatever that is, getting a new certification, getting a new job, moving into a new industry, trying something you never have. During this period, maybe getting fit, maybe trying a new diet. Have a challenge mindset. This is one of the 3 C's of resilience. The other thing is we need to be committed. Committed to your values and the multitude of ways that you can live them. So you may have just left a job that you love. There are other jobs out there that you can love again, but it may be different. So be committed to the idea that your life is growing, developing, and unfolding, and it can be even better. And then the 3rd C is control. Control what you can and let go of the rest. You know, Dr. Fauci says that this virus has its own timeline. We not force timeline. So this is something we need to let go of. We miss highest level while taking the best care of yourself possible. That is something you can control. You can control how you take care of yourself, and you can control how you prepare yourself for what is coming up next. So what I want you to do is think about a time when you were resilient. Maybe you played sports in high school and you would lose, but that didn't mean you gave up. No, you got back up and you would start going again. Maybe you overcame a bad breakup, or you reestablished yourself in a new living situation, or moved to a new town. How was it that you were resilient, that you picked up and carried on? This is part of that self-reflection that's important to do. Start a journal, write down the factors that made you resilient. What factors will help you now? This is important. So there was some research that was done by an organization called Vital Smarts. And this was a recent study. And what they said is the most important factor to personal and career success isn't good luck, natural talent, or even decision making. It's habits. So it's important now during this time of unemployment to develop your habits of success, right? We talk about optimistic. Think of yes before saying no. You need to be open to new opportunities to grow, develop, and unfold. You do want to trust your gut, but that doesn't mean that you have to be absolutely sure that this is the perfect job for you right now, or you've done absolutely everything. 80% is good enough. You don't want to do analysis paralysis. Be curious. Dedicate time to dreaming and researching and thinking. So this is important. And do the hardest and most important things. Those 2 things, like your thing 1 and thing 2 that I talked about, do them first thing in the morning. This will help develop some momentum for you to move into that eustress area in order to be able to do this. So good habits, they're just like bad habits are, but your good habits is where the rewards are going to be. So in starting new habits, you want to become self-aware. Create a ritual during this time of unemployment. Get up early, exercise, eat well, have a routine that you follow. This will really help you, and reward yourself along the way. You deserve it. You know, You reward yourself for completing that online application. Reward yourself for customizing that resume and cover letter. Reward yourself for doing the research to find the new opportunity for you. Now, in this pandemic, psychologist Dr. Dean Givens says that this is truly a paradigm shift. So he says, if we're aiming too low, if we were thinking, how can we survive this? We want to shoot higher than survival to pursue building our resistance, preparing us for future challenges in our life that will come. This is a big challenge, but this isn't the only challenge you've ever been through, and it is not the last challenge you will face. So what's important is to think up what things can you do now to set yourself up for success in the future. What you may have been doing in your career may not work going forward. So it's important to consider some things that we're going to talk about. Let me just give you an example. During the recession, the construction industry was really hurt. And so we had lots and lots of construction people coming in looking for work, and it took many years for that to come back. And people just wanted to go back to the same job that they were doing. They want to work in construction again. There were no jobs for many, many years. And so the old ways weren't working. And so it was important for people to be open to learning new skills, learning new ways of working that were more sustainable. And so this is important. So here's some things. I want you to start thinking about your transferable skills. These are skills that translate from one job to another. Things like problem solving, strategic planning, supervising. You have great supervision skills, holding people accountable, giving good direction. That could apply to many different industries and many different professions. Project management, same thing. The ability to lead and influence others. Your sense of resiliency. So in a sense, working on your resiliency while you're unemployed is a way of really building that skill within you that could translate, that you could talk to a future employer about, that you could be hired on. Customer service skills are used in almost every industry. The ability to schedule. So you may have to think about using your transferable skills instead of the ones that you've used in the past. So it is important to look at these and the talents that you have acquired that may not be industry specific, but again, be transferable. This is important for you to set yourself up for the future. This is from SHRM, the Society for Human Resource Management, and it talks about 6 ways that the coronavirus will change the world of work. And so what's important is that you're able to position yourself well for future success. So a couple of things. It's important to be a lifelong learner. And I know some of you may be thinking, I've been there, done that. I used to teach at Columbia College. This was a college out of Missouri that had satellite campuses throughout the country. It wasn't the one in Columbia University in New York, but I had a student, and this was a woman, and she was working on a degree in psychology, and she was 85 years old. She graduated, and at the graduation, it was so exciting to see her. She had a job working as a psychologist at 85 years old, her first job in this new profession. So that was truly an inspiration for me. Be a lifelong learner. This is an excellent just quality and ability to have in life. Be open to change. One thing for sure, life is full of change. Stay positive and be focused. These are important things to consider. So this refers to the idea of sharpening your saw. This is obviously from Abraham Lincoln, but it's about spending more time in preparation than actually doing the things. So it was Stephen Covey in his book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, who talked about sharpening the saw. And this may be a time for you to go back to school to seek occupational training. And I would encourage you to contact the Workforce Development Board and the local America's Job Center of California to inquire about any kind of training stipends that you might be eligible for. They have funding available to help you to sharpen your saw. So there are lots of occupations out there. The job, they call it the job market because it really is a market, and it's under the same pressures of supply and demand that any other market system is under. Before the pandemic, there was a great demand for employees. Employers did not have enough skilled talent applying for work, but now the tables have turned and there's a greater supply of workers. So unfortunately, the competition is greater. So you need to be strategic and you need to be well informed. This is why I say, do not do the shotgun method and send 500 resumes out. Technology allows us to do that easily, but it's not effective because hiring managers want to see that you're truly interested in that job in that company. So be strategic and do your research, be well informed. Be well informed if you're looking for a job, but if you're going to school. One of the things that I was very much aware of during the recession is we had lots of money to send people to school, but I did not want to send people to a school if there was not going to be a job on the other end. A community college put together a course in vet tech. Vet tech was a profession that seemed great. They wanted me to send them 15 students every semester. But when I looked at the labor market, I realized in a year in that community, there were only 8 open positions. So why would I send 30 people to get trained as a vet tech? Then I am setting up 22 of them for complete failure. So this is the kind of research that you need to do. You need to understand the labor market to know what's up and coming. This is the source that I like to go to for labor market. I like to go to EDD, the labor market tool that I prefer. They base their information on tax records. So they can see who's hiring and who's not. And they look in detail at the trends in the labor market. Now, this is not a training on labor market. That is something that you could look to EDD to provide. But what I'm showing you is that they have detailed information and you can really drill down and say, in Goleta, how many jobs in vet tech are available? What is the training that's needed? How much could I expect to be paid? And you can make some educated decisions about what kind of direction to take. So I'm going to be offering some handouts at the end of this session. And in those handouts will be a link to this labor market page. And with everything, it really is important that you go to the source of information. So you will hear a lot of things in the press, a lot of things on social media about what's going on. What's really important in this time of open access to information is that you really go to the source. So go to ca.gov to find out what are the essential businesses that are open. What can I actually do? What should I not do? Go to the CDC also to find out what are some of the businesses that are open and the behaviors that we need to engage in during this time of pandemic. So here's what the research shows us. Hospitality, professional business services, and consumer retail have been hit the hardest. So this may not be the time for you to start a business in speaking, doing stand-up training. That's what I do. Well, no one is bringing people in to get groups of people together to do training live in their business. It's happening online. This may not be the time for you to move into, becoming a chef at a high-end restaurant or working in a hotel. These are some of the hardest hit industries. But that does not mean that there are not essential jobs. So in the handouts, I link you to an article that really lists a lot of these essential jobs. but there are jobs in healthcare, in infrastructure, in manufacturing, essential retail. So there's consumer retail, selling shoes, jewelry, clothes, those kind of things are not seen as essential unless they feed into other essential jobs. So for example, there's a company called Farm Supply in Buellton. They're an essential business because they provide supplies to the agriculture industry. They provide feed for animals, and they provide tools. Places like hardware stores are deemed essential to support some of the other infrastructure, manufacturing jobs. This is important that you understand what are the essential jobs, who's opening, where are they? Essential services like trash collection, the utilities, news media. There's a lot of need for news media. Financial institutions, the banks are opening, lending organizations, human and social services as people need support at this time, not only through government entities, private entities, but the nonprofit sector. I'm on the board of a couple of nonprofits that are doing very well now, in fact, getting more and more grants to do the work that they do because it's deemed essential to support people at this time. Construction. If you look around, there's a lot of construction projects going on because there's not as much traffic on the roads, there's not enough people. It's a great time to get that work done, and it can be done adhering to social distancing rules. Defense. We live in a county where we've got defense contractors here in Santa Barbara, up at Vandenberg. They're hiring. Could you do something there? Public services, police, fire, those types of things, and logistics and technological support. So there are essential jobs that are still opening. It's important for you to do your research. So the question is, how do you do that, right? Well, we can go back to some tried and true things. Yes, I want you to read the paper, read the local paper, not to look for work, but to read the business section, find out who's doing well in this economy. Most advertised jobs are found on the internet, but by reading our local paper, we can find out who has pivoted their business in order to set themselves up well during this time. So here's a few things that I've found. This was out of the paper just a couple of weeks ago. Grocery stores, food delivery services, caregiver positions, banks, janitorial, security, moving companies, solar installers. Here's a company that I find inspirational. They're in Paso Robles. I actually know this family. They build high-end and very exquisite tree houses. They do animations for amusement parks literally around the world. They've worked for Disney. They built an amusement park in Saudi Arabia. Just a local company in Paso Robles started by these two brothers. When this hit, within 10 days, they had reorganized their manufacture protective gowns, and they increased their number of employees from about 75 to 200. This is the floor of their factory now. Now, I know this is in Paso Robles, but they are not the only company that's pivoted during this period of time. Now, these are essential businesses that they put together and increased their employee count. Here, this is out of the Santa Barbara KEYT. There was a graphic designer that pivoted to develop protective plexiglass. Their business is growing. There was a woman, and she was an upholsterer. People would give her their chairs and things to reupholster. She had a sewing machine. She had the manufacturing capacity. She had supply chain for all the things she would need to make masks. She's making masks for children, selling them on Etsy, and making more money than she did before the pandemic hit. Now, is she hiring? I don't know, but these are the kind of things you could think about. What about becoming a contract tracer? Okay, they are paying $22 an hour to help fight the spread of COVID-19. You can do this from your home. In the handouts, I give you the website link in order to apply for those jobs. So we can't get stuck in our old ways. There are many organizations that are embracing the new, and those are the ones that you want to identify and you want to find. So you are going to need to look for the specific jobs online. You can do it on your phone. First place, look at Cal jobs. There are many organizations, particularly in infrastructure, defense, that type of thing. They are required to post their jobs on Cal jobs. So if you haven't already, get in there, set up your account. Then there's Indeed, Monster, careers.com, all sorts of things. Get on there and see where are the most jobs in our area. Indeed has been one that I've used when I've done recruiting projects for organizations. Industry-specific job boards. So I know in the winery industry, there's a job board specific to that. Another way to look at this is there an organization that you've always wanted to work for? Here are some just from our area that I don't know for sure if they're hiring, but I know there's some of these essential and very large employers in our county. Is there one you don't for? What if you just tailored? What you want to do is work that you can do. What's your head want to do? What do you want to do? But be strategic and link it to the labor market. So there's that you can grow, develop, and unfold into new. And what I'd like you to think about is finding a sustainable job. And you do that by really understanding the labor market and not just saying, well, I've always done this kind of work and I'm always going to do this kind of work. Be surprised how many transferable skills you might have. And I would suggest that you have a plan A, a plan B, a plan C. There are many different ways. The thing is that you need to stabilize yourself, get your head in the right space, managing stress and building your resilience, and then building relationships and preparing yourself for the next opportunity. Perfect success is graceful with yourself, because in difficulty, there always lies opportunity. Advertise. Actually, employers may not even know that they need you help an employer to succeed. Here's some statistics. 50% of job seekers hear about jobs from their friends. 37% say they learn about open positions from their professional networks. So you need to build your confidence to network. This is truly important. And I know we can't maybe physically be with one another, but how can you be involved in an organization? You want to use your time and really target your networking. If you start networking somewhere and you realize it's not working, then move on to somewhere else. Here's some ideas. Professional organizations, alumni associations. Did you graduate from City College? Did you graduate from UCSB? Can you connect there? What about chambers of commerce or other specific organizations to what you're looking for? My business has really gone down, but I'm on the board of directors of the Human Resource Association of the Central Coast. And I've gotten very active in it to keep my network going. Be willing to ask for assistance from friends, neighbors, families, former employers. Keep in touch with your former employer, especially at this time. The employers I know who had to let people go didn't want to do it. This is not the time to hold a grudge. This was a situation that was beyond many people's control. So you need to keep in touch with them because maybe they can help. Social media is also a means for you to do that. And here are some statistics. 35% of jobs, 35% of people found out about jobs from social media. 80% of employers are using social media as a recruitment tool. Just a couple of weeks ago, I got contacted through social media by a recruiter. I wasn't even looking for work, but this is how people are looking now. So these things, social media can be your friend during a job search. What is your presence? The benefits of this is that you network safely. You can demonstrate your computer skills and you can build a personal brand. In the handouts, I have an article that looks from social media from an employer's point of view. Here's another thing you can do. Schedule an informational interview. This is where you contact someone working for a company that you're interested in or doing a job that you're interested in, and you get to learn if that is in fact a job you want to do, how strong the industry, if that company is hiring, or if they know someone who is hiring. So one of the things about this, I know people sometimes get nervous about it, but everybody loves to talk about themselves and what they do. So this is really a compliment to others. Maybe it's a neighbor who works for a company that you think would be really cool. Do an informational interview with them at this time. Let them become part of your team, helping you to find the next job, even if they can't hire you right away. Have you thought about volunteering? This is a great opportunity to learn new skills, to network, to build your resume. This is a wonderful opportunity to help others, work on, again, building your skills and network. But it also, when we volunteer, it helps us. Here's some local ways to find out who's accepting volunteers. California for All. You can go there, and this is a place they're looking for people just to call elderly people, to connect with them, to make masks, to prepare meals, to deliver meals, all this kind of thing. The County of Santa Barbara has a site specific to volunteer opportunities, and the Nonprofit Resource Network has a location on their website to volunteer for nonprofit. Anytime. It's driven by the labor market. And so this is a challenging time for everyone, but there are opportunities that are around. Patience is truly important. So this quote, I love, it says, "Patience is not the ability to wait, but the ability to keep a good attitude while waiting. This too shall pass. Make sure you're safe, stay on your benefits, and be patient." And this is a mantra that always helps me at times like this. Many of us have done this before. My business collapsed in the recession. I took a full-time job I never even considered in the workforce system, which I loved. Then I had the opportunity to rebuild the business. It was much better than it was before. And when I'm being my very best self, I tell myself this, and I remember that something wonderful is about to happen. And just saying some positive words to yourself and watching yourself talk is really key. And when I say this to myself, I can get excited about what the next chapter will bring after this pandemic. So here are what I call the 7 pillars of success to search for a job during this pandemic. First, you want to stay safe and healthy. Next, you want to reach out for help from workforce professionals and your professional network. Be open to learning new things and trying new things, physically and mentally. Maintain that positive attitude. Be patient and persistent, and have faith that the right job is out there for you. So what I'd like to do now is offer you a challenge. So here is your activity. I want you to read the business section of your local about people who've pivoted. They're looking for workers. How can you find something like that that you would enjoy and be able to work? Create and update your LinkedIn profile. There are many ways to connect on the internet and to create that presence, but LinkedIn is really the premier professional social media platform. So create and update your LinkedIn profile. Identify organizations that you'd like to work for. So just make a list of every skill that you have that you'd like to use. These could be things that maybe you've never been paid for them before. You like to sew, okay, put it on your list. You like to cook, put it on your list. You like to interact with people, put it on your list. Then make a list of all the organizations you would like to work for. Compare those lists, identifying organizations that could use your skills. And then research those organizations that you'd like to work for. Contact their human resource function, asking for an informational interview. And if the human resource professional can't do that, then ask for someone in the company, maybe doing that same job, that they could recommend for you just to have a half an hour informational interview to learn about the organization. So this is my challenge activity for you, to really muster up that stress and get out there and take some action in a forward direction towards looking for work during this pandemic. So with that, I'd like to, I'll open this up a little bit. There's a chat. You could put your chat in there for any questions. I'm gonna start my video again. And I would welcome people. I'm going to unmute, and also I'll take any questions in the chat or by unmuting. Does anyone have any questions? No questions. Well, it was a lot of information. I'm going to mute us again.
Question, actually.
Oh, yes. What is your question?
I was wondering if when we do all of our meetings, they will be on this application, Zoom?
Do you mean when you say talking about sessions like this?
Yes.
Well, for the current time, while we're unable to pull groups together, yes, we are recording these sessions. We're going to be posting them on the Workforce Development Board site with the materials that support it. And we've got a series of workshops coming up.
Okay.
I hope that helps.
Thank you.
So
yes, thank you.
Thank you. Jessica asked in the chat, do you have any suggestions for a Zoom interview, such as a background and what to wear? Actually, we're putting together a workshop on how to interview at this time. And yes, we will. That is recorded and published. Are there any other questions?
Oh, I should give us a tidbit.
Well, I'm going to mute everyone just so that we're able to maintain the sound quality. And I want to encourage you truly to Are we connected? I'm sorry. We got disconnected.
Hi,
So,
Kathy. Peter, can you hear-
hi. I think the internet went out. My last slide was just connecting you to the social services that are of value at this time, from the Workforce Development Board and America's Job Center to social services, the Employment Development Department, and 211. So with that, I'm sorry about the connection, and I'd like to invite all of you to go to the Workforce Development website to find the slides and the handout, and I wish you all good luck.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you so much.
Hi, Kathy. Peter over here on this end.
Hi, Peter.
Let's
How
talk
are
right
you?
now. Just give me a few minutes here.
Yeah,
have-
hold on 1 minute, Peter.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. That's it. Thank you. Peter.
Yes, looks like we still have one more person in there.
Yeah. Okay. Hello, there's someone there. Here, I'll put them in the waiting room. There.
Okay, move on. All right.
Okay, Peter, it's just us. I think the internet was no good.
Give me a quick second on my end. Let me just close some stuff up here. All right. It's just me and you now, right?
That is my understanding.
And you
I've
stop
got
the record.
three participants. I put one person into the waiting room. So
Yeah.
that person wasn't responding to me.
Is the recording off?
No, hold on a minute.
Okay.
There we go.